We have a short chapter, but as it were, we're in a point where a short chapter isn't too bad because of how fast paced the events are. Using kind of like, the bigger spread kind of like chapters for more of the visuals and kind of like the setup, and then just display on the fight action aspect of it is all right. Obviously, like when it's shorter chapters in like events, as like the plots are kind of moving with dialogue, it feels slower. I think these are the times where it can kind of be still unfortunate, but not nearly as ripping of what a short chapter can feel like when there's like a very very kind of like wild plot point happening that has a kind of like dragging mystery to it, something that you're kind of like more curious about, whereas this is more of a big battle than more than anything, because it's not like with Megicula, how are they going to get through the heart and deal with like the curses and stuff, and who's going to show up and what. Like, we're not entirely in a situation like that. We're more in this is a massive boss character that like we don't really know entirely like if they're going to defeat here or like where this is going to go. Because like when it came to like Megicula, Xenon, I guess sort of Vonica and Megicula, you know what I mean? Like all those fights, is like we know they're going to beat them, but like how is it going to work? Like how are they going to do it? We know that obviously they're going to win in the end, but I don't feel like right now they're in a spot where they could win. The only way that I could feel like I could see them defeating Lucifaro is just I'll just pop a short theory in there just because it's something that I feel like could fit if it is Tabata's plan. If they have Lucifaro die in this arc, but it's more of a setup for one, there's two other devils at his level and we're only fighting the 50% version, but also it would, I would assume, make a power struggle in the underworld, because now instead of a balanced three entity kind of thing where it's like if one guy does something to one guy, the guy that's open could maybe kind of swoop in, and it could just like be an immediate like the last guy is going to be the winner who takes out the two that we're fighting. Whereas like now it could just be two people. So like say Lucifaro dies, you could have the remaining two devils just be in a straight, like if they wanted to go to battle the other, they have a straight chance of it being way more of a win, like a clear cut way to win. Whereas like the other way of like with three of them, at any point the third one could show up and defeat them. But we could do something like that. But if Tabata wants to do that, the only way I would really want it to be like that is if we have parts where we see inside of the underworld and we see the devils and how they operate, like from a hierarchy setup, and do they have buildings and stuff down there? Like, are there like castles? Is it just like barren wasteland like that we saw on the first floor? Who knows? Either way, this chapter really was like, I mean, it was just really like an action chapter. Like there's a lot of just like battle scenes going on. There's a lot of moves and stuff going on, like characters just maneuvering around the battlefield around Lucifaro, trying their best not to get hurt, but obviously getting caught and stuff. Just displays of Lucifaro's power. It's just one thing I want to mention, because when I saw the spoilers, like I saw some of the spoiler images, I had an immediate kind of like, okay, well, what is this power? What is this ability? Because Lucifaro said that he was going to start fighting seriously, so I was like, okay, well, maybe he's going to start using named spells. And there's a part, like, right at the start when they're kind of going out, you have, like, the whole kids' playground, the whole shadow clones and everything, and Astayami, everybody out there. And he just does, like, this big, like, gravity wave, like, press out of gravity that is, that's destroying the magic. I was really hoping it'd be, like, he uses singularity, like, but he uses it in a different way. Instead of making a sphere, like, he forms it around him. Like, imagine it's like you use singularity, but like monozone. So it forms around you almost like a bubble, and then it expands out. It would be like a really, really OP shield. And kind of at the same time in this scenario, it would be like an AoE negation to a degree of some, maybe not negation, but like erasure of some abilities like this. That would be really cool to have. And it's like, it just seems to be like a gravity power. But I was super hyped when I saw this, because like this would be really cool if this is what it is. Because I was just kind of like theorizing, kind of coming up with like, okay, well, what's this attack? Unfortunately, it is not that. So we'll have to wait and see. Maybe we'll get something like that for Lucifaro in the future, some really OP and crazy. I don't need him to like pull out something like, whatever Tabata reaches in that's more complicated than a black hole. I would like to see him just use the techniques we saw from Dante, but in a more skilled and more kind of experienced way. Like I said, if he did something like akin to a monozone singularity. Because think about it, it's like you have singularity, which is like this. Like when you really think about how it works from a standpoint in the series, not from like a real singularity or real black hole. You got a Hax orb that you're throwing at somebody, and it has like a set AoE of Hax effect. Whereas like if you were Lucifaro, you just teleport in front of somebody and then expand out, like I said, that idea of a monozone singularity, and then bam, you just erase them unless they somehow have an ability to counter it. But anyway, that's just something I really wanted to talk about because I thought it looked really cool, and I was like, well, okay, well, how does this ability function? Just because I thought it was to me visually the neatest looking part of the chapter. Just because I liked that it wasn't just he flexed and like it all broke. There was a drawn visual of it, so that it was clear that it had to do with his abilities. And I was like just wondering like how exactly would it play out. I like how like half of this so far is just me like contemplating over like how he did this one thing. It's like, oh no, he just did the gravity attack. But Asta is like going into Devil Union. He's only got, I think he says like 2 minutes left, and then he's done. It goes for just like the normal the infinite slash. Lucifaro just teleports. He's just like, yeah, whatever, and goes and just goes to smash Asta. When he says that he's like the most dangerous one, he's the easiest to kill. I wonder exactly like why he's the most easy to kill in his mind. Like, is it because it only takes raw brute force? I have that notification. I actually don't. I know that's going to go in through my phone and everything is closing up. But I guess like Asta is already damaged, but Asta doesn't really have any like means of direct escape like a lot of the other characters do. They don't have a way to kind of like, he doesn't have a way to kind of like fast get out of there because obviously his abilities don't work like that. So for Lucifaro, who just has to get in close to him and land a hit, that's obviously going to lead to his end. But obviously for him, he's not alone. Here comes in Yami, who comes in for another attack, getting help from Noct. I like the cool like shadow doppelganger almost kind of like wave that he's riding. I thought that was really cool. Like all these kind of duplicates are, though from this formless shadow mass, they are still kind of like one entity, like working towards something. I thought was it's a really cool concept of it. But Lucifaro just starts like breaking bones. I don't know why he doesn't start like going for eyes and stuff. He should be really going for like that, or trying to figure out like how he can just disperse maybe the mana in the area. He needs to really just prevent them from getting anything back. Because one thing that obviously is present, because Yuno's right there, is Yuno's ability of Yuno's trait of magic replenishment, because he can absorb traces of mana in the atmosphere from other people's abilities and regain his magic. So he really needs to kind of like figure out what he's going to do with that. I don't think it's that much of a worry in the one-on-one term, not in the one-on-one term, because obviously, Yuno won last one-on-one, but more of the kind of personal, like when he needs to go for Yuno, because Asta's obviously who he wants to go for the first person, or Asta lead by who he wants to go for first, whereas when it comes to like the other people, like it's just going to be like those one-tap tag outs really at that point, like getting these one kind of like big powerful hits on him. And obviously he just powered up. He just needs to really start using name attacks. Like Lucifaro, obviously he's done a really good job displaying what a character with high physical strength can do to a verse that is mostly casters. And we've seen this before. Characters with high physical strength in Black Clover have always been really emphasized as being like an extra notch in where they're generally at the time. Like even Veto, obviously Veto way back then, like when he was a relevant bad guy, he was a big deal, and his physical strength obviously was a huge part of it. As we've seen with Yami, Asta, as we saw with obviously here with these files, we've seen with Marileona, physical strength has always become like a big aspect of of some of these characters. It's not an automatic thing for like being a big character, but any of the characters that have had a big overcasing of it have definitely had had that extra edge in fights, because most of Black Clover is not used to taking brute force damage, because they're mostly used to fighting casters who are using all magic based abilities. But now Lucifaro is kind of just in the last final kind of like decisions, I think, here, because he's putting in more effort. He's going for more kind of like direct aggression shots, like when he swings his arm and then goes and directly just to like gravity crush Nox's arm. And Asta has to come in, obviously use anti-magic to negate it, to save his arm. It definitely looks it's obviously damaged. Like there's like chunks of it missing, but obviously it could have been way worse. Like I would assume if Asta didn't do anything, his arm would be gone. It would just look like a tube of toothpaste after you diligently get every single scrap of toothpaste out of there. Just nothing but a empty sock, pretty much, for an arm. And then Lucifaro goes for like this really sick kick. This is probably like, out of all the attacks, this is up there with like the face grab and like the dunk into Twilight of Valhalla, where it's like he's done a lot of melee attacks, but the ones that are just a little bit extra, like he's doing some like martial arts move. It just looks really cool. I immediately thought of like some Mike Guy, like Rock Lee dynamic entry move coming in with this, which I thought was really cool. And he's going for a leg. Like he's just trying to disable Asta at this point and then make it harder for him to do anything. I don't know why he didn't go for his face or go for the throat, though. That's what he should have done. I guess if he went any lower, he probably would have got chopped. So he probably had to jump a little bit in the process, or maybe like going in mid swing like he was going for, and just try to avoid the slash. Like outright shattering Yuno's Boreas like with one punch was also really cool. But now we're down to like the wire, because Yuno is going to, like he says, he's going to bet on Asta's captain with William's sword, and he's just going to decide on which spot he's going to teleport Yami to, the right or the left side of Lucifaro. And Lucifaro's like, regardless of which way they're going to come, right or left, he's going to kill them. So he's going to kill Yami regardless, I think, of where he's going to go. And I really am, I'm hyped to see where this big decision goes, because I assume this is going to be the end. Looks like he's barely holding together. Nox's arm, I doubt Nox is going to be able to really like use that arm again in this fight. Asta obviously is low on Devil Union. There's still the idea that I think we're going to get another Berserk Asta moment coming up, because otherwise it's like, it feels weird to have a Berserk moment in a series once, just because it's like 2 to 3 times and then it like gets resolved is fine. But it's like, if you just have one time, it's just odd. It can kind of depend on the context, but I will say, like, when it comes to like a power based thing and it's not like a scenario based thing, you know what I mean? When it's like something more of like, why would you introduce it and then never do it again? Like, I can understand like why would Libe, and everything going on the story at the time, but it's like, it would be a weird concept to introduce this kind of way that Libe going out of control emotionally obviously affects Asta and their connection, and how it could do, affect him here. There's the whole fact that we know that his Devil Union form isn't perfected, but I would assume that that's not something we're going to focus on now. If we're in a scenario where Yami is going to get teleported and get killed, potentially rather, and Asta sees it and go, like, I would assume Asta would go into berserk state. And then also the aftermath, like what would Asta's relationship be with Yuno, and his response to Yuno be if he sees that? I don't know, like, it's really odd. I feel like, my guess, just as something I'm going to put in there at the end of the video as last thing, just because like this chapter, there's not a lot I really wanted to talk about in terms of the chapter itself. It was a good chapter, but there's not a lot to really kind of mull over when it comes to direct, like, this scene to the scene. It's more of like where this leads to, where this kind of connect an edge to. It's just seeing again the display of like, again, a physical strength character to a verse that is mostly non-physical strength based characters is something I do like. And in reverse, when you have characters who are all like almost all physical strength, and you put a Hax character in there, and they just start running numbers on all these guys who don't know what to do. But right now, I would say that if something like that happened, Asta should understand the situation they were in. But like, I would assume he would still be a little upset, and it would be something to kind of like create a rift between the two of them. I don't know. We'll have to like really kind of like see how it all kind of goes down. And I will say this right now. If the idea that Lucifaro loses And like if Lucifaro, I want to know what happens to Lucifaro. Obviously, like if he wins or loses, it's going to depend on the context. But if he does lose, I'm hoping that, like, I'll just say right now that I will wait to see what Tabata's plan with that is before I comment on it entirely. Like if they kill Lucifaro, I'm not gonna be like, oh, no, Tabata doesn't want to have any good villains, blah blah. It's like, doesn't want to keep anybody, because it's like, well, he might be trying to use it to set up the bigger picture, and that's what kind of like the Dark Triad was doing. I'm hoping he's not going to do that Lucifaro. I like Lucifaro so far. I think he's interesting. We've only gotten a little bit of his more interesting side, and obviously we saw a lot of his like more aggressive devil aspects. But he was cooler last chapter when he like kind of calmed down and became a little bit more of that calm, collected marauder and less of like the screaming kind of like crazed devil. I like both so far. I like that we're getting both in the same character, and we've seen a little bit also about him and like him being upset about people being able to even have the potential to hurt him. I think once we get more interactions with him and Aldra Malik, actually, will be like a really good display more of his character. Just because it will be one instead of like him talking to things he sees as inferior prey, whereas like with Aldra Malik, it would be like not an equal, but somebody he would, I would assume, look at with like enough not understand. I'm trying to think of what word. Enough kind of like not respect either. Like just kind of enough ground, I guess, that he would look at him almost like he's the same species and not like he's looking at vermin. Like he would probably like the easiest way to like kind of look at it would be like a dude talking to one of his employees, like a really high ranking guy talking to somebody who's not like a bottom of the floor guy, but obviously still not even remotely in an adjacent spot to like, the top dog. And he's just going to be hopefully, again, giving us some good interactions, maybe giving us some nods. Maybe we find out a little bit more about Lucifaro from his character, like from his more, I can't say human nature because he's not a human, but the idea of, you say a human side to him, but like more of like him outside of big evil bad guy kind of way. But anyway, other than that, though, this video went a little bit longer than I expected, just because like I had some stuff I actually wanted to talk about that I thought was interesting in the upcoming kind of like possibilities. But anyway, other than that, comment below, thumbs up the video, but fun like, and subscribe, and check out my other videos. But that, appreciate it, subscribe, and thank you for listening.